Well, as we wait for the next session to begin, I hope all of you are enrolling yourself as members of the Happy Hoteliers Club. This is a great networking opportunity. I've been, interacting very closely with Tarandeep Kaur, but I also know Ashish Gupta and Dheeraj Agarwal are really working very hard behind the scenes to make it a really happy place. So please join this club and make it grow further and further. Thank you. I think we have our next panel. We're running 5 minutes late, but it's all right. I think we're having very interesting sessions. Our next panel consists of people whom Himmat Anand referred to in the last session. People running small but very meaningful businesses in rural areas of the country who are contributing significantly to the nation's exchequer, and but they're sometimes lost in the crowd of big brands. So let us talk to them. Let us get the perspective from the perspective. Let us get the perspective from the point of view of small and medium hotels. The topic of the discussion is "This too shall pass." How are small and independent hotels preparing for the future? I think we have got three panelists who can talk about this at length, and we can talk for hours with them. We have got Randhir Vikram Singh Mandava. He's, I think, the pioneering heritage hotelier of our country. I mean, he introduced the concept of heritage hoteliering, so there'll be a lot we can learn from him. Unfortunately, we just have half an hour. I wish we had 1 hour with us. We have Shoba Mohan of Rare. She represents a series of really nice boutique properties, and I think each property must be now much in demand because as we heard from Ms. Himmat Anand in the last session, the people are looking at these what they call the personal containment zones, the small and independent hotels. And then we have got Arindam Kumar from ITC Fortune Hotels. Now that is a big network of hotels in the operating in the budget and mid-scale segments. I think the perspective from there is very interesting because they have big numbers of rooms, each one of them. So and they're in mostly in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. How are they handling the current situation? I think we need to talk. Uh, Randhir ji, you have seen the industry from such close quarters from now 40 years, and you're a pioneer in your own, way. Tell me now, how, like you were an artist, you studied at Baroda's JJ School of Art, I think. Baroda School of Art, not the JJ School of Art. And that is this school that has produced some geniuses and some of the greatest artists. Your teachers were such great artists. Now, from an artist, you became a hotelier, and a very successful one at that. But why are young people not getting attracted to properties like yours? How do you hope to attract people, young people from hotel management institutes, especially now because big hotels are cutting back on staff. They are reducing new intakes. In such a situation, how can heritage hotels come into the picture and become talent magnets?
Thank you so much, Sourish, for inviting me today this discussions. In fact, very little is known about heritage hotels. People don't know the opportunities because the catering colleges and institutes which are churning out so many talented young boys and girls, and they have no knowledge of heritage hotels. In fact, the major hello.
Yes.
The major thing, for example, when you are training and working in big 5-star hotels, then you are doing the basic very, very basic job. If you get to the kitchen, you're chopping vegetables, and if you're in the front office, you're running from one point to the other point with papers. But you really never get an opportunity to really show your knowledge, share your knowledge on the practical side. Whereas if you get into a heritage hotel, these are small hotels which are multi-utility in staff. For example, you have to do everything, and you can immediately put your knowledge, and you have a great opportunity to expand there, because they're the owners or the management are not keen that you should follow a certain thing, fall in their particular group. Like that is what Taj or Oberoi or Welcome Group or XYZ have a set system that you have to follow their systems. Here you have the freedom of expression. That's very
No,
important.
no, what you're saying is that a young person gets a lot of autonomy in a
Yes.
heritage hotel.
The only thing is that it's not known to people that you can be exposed and you can get a great opportunity to really express yourself and do a lot of great things. It's like a startup today. No, the startups are doing such good work. If these youngsters are put in these hotels, which are these small hotels, you'll find they'll do wonders the way they will come out with new expressions.
And that will be a great learning opportunity. Shoba, you have been representing a lot of heritage hotels, small hotels, and some of them are in quite backward district towns or district centers. What is your view? Of course, there is a market. People are going to such hotels, and they will continue to do so. And by from what we learned from the first session, these are becoming very popular. But do they have the quality staff? A, and B, do you think hotel management institutes should now look at heritage hoteliering as a course module?
Um, thank you, Sourish. Namaste, Randhir ji. Hi, Arindam. Namaste. So, yeah, thank you for inviting me on board. I completely agree with Randhir sir when he says that the staff, the people. First of all, this is not about heritage tourism alone. It's also about other remote and rural areas that people can actually travel to. In the pandemic, what happened was these got a lot of eyeballs because it automatically deferred to the point that these were in remote locations, far away from everyone else. So puts you in automatic isolation from from crowds, for instance. You're not in a city and everything. But that said, do the staff have the opportunities to learn? I would tend to agree with Randhir sir that it allows them exposure to a wide range of skills. Not only that, because a lot of our hotels most of the offbeat remote locations really rely on local resources. Now, what that does to people is it's not only about that you bring them on board and teach them new skills, you also pick up the local skills. You are able to utilize the local skills of the people. Like, I mean, classic examples that, they know the area very well. So taking somebody taking a client out on a nature walk, for instance, where the inbound was concerned, of course, language could have been a problem, but with Indians, because they can speak Hindi and things like that, it kind of works very well. Teaching them new skills like a birding skill. I mean, there are n number of lovely stories where the local community has learned how to bird effectively, how to wield a camera, for instance. So these are skills that are taught to them. The third very important thing is it also exposes them to client interface, which is not very it doesn't happen in larger groups and hotels. So a housekeeping person is largely left to being a housekeeping person. Then for me, the important piece is, what is it from the local community that you would like to adapt into your hotel to create an excellent character for your hotel that allows you to stand away from the rest of the rest of the heritage hotels. And one point I'd like to say about the heritage properties is that what we are not addressing is why should they go to a heritage hotel vis-a-vis a modern built-up hotel that's come up recently. You have to encourage youngsters to believe that they are participating in a conservation and a preservation principle. That staying and choosing to stay in a mandava, in Mandava, in Mandava Haveli or in Castle Mandava, it allows that particular heritage property to continue and to remain as a piece of heritage in that locality. If not, I mean, in this day and age, personal conservations or personal money and energy into preservation is very, very difficult, and it would have probably crumbled into time. So I think that is one very important piece. And for the hotel management
I would just jump in
organizations.
here. These are also contributing a lot to rural development. I mean, isn't it?
Yes, yeah,
Heritage
rural
hotels,
development, economy. In most cases, the owners are like the MyBab for the local community, right? Their medical facilities, their retirement plans, their children are education, daughters getting married, loans that need to be taken. All of that actually done well. I'm not saying it's this ideal world, but for the hotel, the students, which is I think is much of your audience today. For the students, it is also to look at a very immersive, a very personal engagement, understanding skills and things like that. And this actually gives rise to a lot of entrepreneurship. Imagine somebody from and I think travel and tourism, apart from contributing to a lot of jobs, it is also a fertile ground from entrepreneurship and allows people to take the idea, train here, go back to their village homes or something like that, create a village stay experience. It hits out at a lot of points over tourism, better distribution, carrying capacities, allowing to keep, educated and trained staff in their own villages, creating something for their own community.
Right. I think you raised several important points, which, Arindam, which, drawing from what Shoba and what Randhir just said, I will ask you, because there are a lot of people from IHMs or other hospitality management institutes who are in the audience. Do you think it's time for hotel management institutes to introduce a module for small and independent hotels? Because most most students are trained to become the parts of, you yourself have gone through the training. So they're trained to become parts of big hotels, big chains, but not in a little Fortune hotel or in a Lemon Tree or in a Castle Mandava. How do we get young people trained for these small and independent hotels?
So first of all, Sourish, thank you for having me here. I guess I sort of have a different point of view from what Randhirji or Shoba would have, purely from a perspective of the kind of hotels we operate, which is in a way different from what Randhirji or Shoba operates. So I think the first thing we need to understand is in the budget scale or in the mid-market scale or in the smaller hotel, there are two kinds of hotels. There are one which are small in size but are very high value. And when I say very high value, I'm talking about the average rates and the revenues these hotels pull vis-a-vis the number of rooms. The kind of hotels that that Shoba runs and Randhirji runs, or Tree of Life, for example, where the average rates are very high. And then there are the hotels which we are operating, where we are in the mid-scale operations, where the average rates range at a certain level. Of course, it depends from city to city, destination to destination. And why I bring this perspective into the conversation is because it has a direct impact on the viability of the project from a ownership perspective. And as you know, Fortune Hotels operates hotels for the owners, and they are a very, very important stakeholder for us. So coming from my perspective of ITC Fortune running budget hotels across the world, destinations, ranging from leisure to business hotels. And we do operate a lot of hotels in some really exotic, far out locations, and that's one of our sort of specialities. Um, I think from a perspective of having the younger generation getting interested in this kind of hotels, there are two lines of thoughts. The one that Shoba just mentioned about, this whole immersive, experiential kind of role that a young student could explore. And there are examples around the world of the younger generation getting into this kind of the travel mode. People who are exploring with these ideas, not very afraid of losing their role or responsibility or the jobs going forward. But then there are some people who are extremely serious about a career, long-term career in hotels. And when I say hotels, inverted commas, the kind of hotels that we run, which have brand standards. Now, a kind of hotel that is being run by, let's say, Shoba or Randhir, would be more unbranded, brand standard kind of hotels, because every unit has a specific location that it deals with, whereas for us it's a little more branded. So we will have to look at ways and means of attracting talent from a perspective of learning and growth, on the perspective of the fact that there are some great brand standards that people will have to learn, and the growth, because that we are Fortune and we are associated with a much larger conglomerate. We have the advantage of actually growing people from a Fortune hotel to a Welcome hotel, and if the performances go to an ITC hotel. So that's an advantage that we have, which I must admit is a very big advantage to draw talent. Having said that, from a college perspective, I also hold the hat of being the president of the IHM Pusa Alumni Association, and we've been discussing about how we can make it more meaningful for younger students to be attracted to this. I think it's a change of mindset, and that mindset has changed dramatically from the time that I passed out of IHM Pusa to today. And it is primarily because of the successful models on two fronts. One, the lemon trees, the Sarovas, the Fortunes have brought in an extreme level of professionalism into running budget hotels, followed by the fact that the smaller cities today have a Fairfield by Marriott or a Holiday Inn or a Holiday Inn Express. So it is no longer taboo to be working for a brand. The good news is that the brands are also moving people from one brand to the other. Grish and me have worked with Intercontinental Hotels together, and one of the things that we agreed was that anybody can move from Holiday Inn to a Crown Plaza and Crown Plaza to an Intercontinental, which may not have been the case in the past. The other is, as Shoba mentioned, that there are adventurous young generation people who sort of find their calling in doing something out of the world, doing something innovative and following their passion, may it be birding, may it be cooking, may it be so and so. So I think we are in a good space today. It is expanding, it is working well on both fronts. People who want experiential kind of roles and responsibilities going forward, even to the extent of being an entrepreneur. But on the other hand, I think companies like us provide a platform for people to grow to a larger hotel, to a larger brand, and that works well as well. For I joined Quality Inns India as a management trainee in '91, and then been working in luxury hotels for a long time, and now in a budget hotel. So I think that transition is happening all the time, Sourish.
That's right. I think your career track is something which students can learn from, and it's good that you are involved with IHM and you are doing a lot of work with IHM Pusa to introduce the correct course corrections. Now, Randhir ji, coming to you, there is one concern which has come up on the chat room. There is a feeling, especially among young people, that small and independent hotels do not offer good salaries. Is that, I mean, how do you defend yourself, or how do you react to that sort of situation? That comment, sorry.
See, the issue is it depends entirely on what are the work he has to do. Mm-hmm. And it depends on which area you are. The salaries are there. They get some pretty good salaries, actually, if you're in the right place. If you're in a really small village where there's a very small place, the salaries are going to be limited, but you also get a lot of tips at the same time. So it plays a double game. How Shoba just mentioned about birding and other activities which you participate in. So once you do all these things, you can earn as much as you want, depending
Right.
on how clever you are and
Right.
how closely you associate yourself with your work.
That's
So
right.
it depends on time.
I think I
A
think
black and
also
white salary could be a possibility, yes, that you may not get it. But if you're enterprising enough, you'll be able to make enough money.
and also I guess the cost of living is very low, isn't it?
Cost of living is very low because there's nothing else to do in that town. If you go to my village, when I started back in 1980, when I started my hotel, you'd be surprised that we didn't even get green vegetables there. It was a person coming from a big city, you'd get some vegetables, although everything was basin and linton-based things was cooked there.
That's
So
right.
issues are that the entire life is around that. You can do walks, you can do so many other activities. But apart
Right.
from that, if you expect the city life, yes, it's not there. So you
Right.
have to relook at that part of it.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I mean, Shobha, so, given there are two sides of the coin, so what is your take on it? Like, if you were to, talk to your nephew and get him or your niece and get her interested in working for Castle Vandava or, your Mayurbhanj property or something like that, how do you get people from cities to work in these remote and rural locations?
So yeah, firstly, I'd like to put it out there that hotels like Mandava, the Mandava group of hotels, are brand in themselves. They have created, so there are certain brand principles, there are certain even our hotels, each one of them, though they are all different owners and things like that, they each of them is an individual brand, maybe not as well known globally as which is why you need an umbrella figure like a rare. But there are certain very, very strong principles of both of service quality and best practices that automatically go without saying. I mean, so I would tend to disagree when you say that, like tend to disagree when you say Taj is a brand or a Four Seasons a brand or a Fortune is a brand, while Mandava and like a Shapura Bagh somewhere, Ramatra Fort, they're all brand in themselves. Number one. Number two is that as far as salaries are concerned, I don't think salaries are in any way less than anything. Opportunities are low. Like I said, most of these small offbeat places try and hire as much locally as possible, because that is the point. The point is not to get people from Calcutta or from Assam to come and work in Rajasthan. We'd like to keep as much as give as much jobs or create as much jobs or skills and deploy as much skills for the local youth and people as possible. The third important thing here, where whether I would allow my nephew in the growing years, if my nephew or my daughter wants to go, and that is where knowledge is. And somebody pointed out there that in your growing years, you want to know when you want to grow. You want to grow when you want to grow when the pandemic hits you, or you want to continuously grow from the time you entered your college and put everything that you've learned into practice when you're doing it, and also learn something that they'll probably never teach you in B schools. Mm-hmm. Right? So that is the point of it, which is why the potential for people like this, adventurous, who would say no to a huge brand that takes you to big cities and say yes to a smaller brand, is a personal choice. And this is where the entrepreneurs are. This is the potential for entrepreneurs.
That's right. Which, Arindam, I'll ask you a very difficult question, which obviously a young viewer is asking, compared to graduates of IIMs, those who leave IHMs really don't get great salaries. And, throughout their careers, they have one problem, and that is salaries. And that is a very real problem. And in fact, this or not, he or she says that salaries really have if you sort of correlate them with inflation, they haven't really risen in the last 35 years. And that's why a lot of IHM seats and take. You have been on, you have been a trainee, and now you're also like on the board of IHM Pusa. And you're also the vice president operations of a very big chain of budget and mid-scale hotels. So, you've seen it all. What is your advice to this young person who's asking this question?
I think that's a good question. But before I answer that question, I think I just need to answer your first question very briefly. I think for us as a company, we have two very big advantages from attracting people into these destinations which are otherwise not attractive for the younger generation. If you if you look at a Madurai or a Rajkot, or a Dalhousie where we have hotels. One is the brand, and I think the scope and opportunity to learn and grow in the brand is very high, and a lot of people who don't get the sort of desired jobs of being the corporate trainee of a large brand and a large hotel, they tend to join a hotel like ours and then grow in the ranks and grow on to become successful hoteliers. So that's one. The other is, I think smaller hotels like ours would give an opportunity for somebody who's enthusiastic and energetic and ambitious to get a role as a leader in a hotel much earlier than they would get in a larger hotel. So if you look at the average age of our general managers, if you look at the average age of the HOTs in our hotels, and I would presume it would be the same with Shoba's and Randhirji's hotels. I think these, there is a youngness to these hotels, and they get this opportunity at a very young age. They're ambitious. They are willing to take that role, and for that leadership role, they're willing to go to a smaller place and start their career as an HOD or as a general manager. I think we have that advantage with smaller hotels, and we have a great set of general managers, very talented, but again very ambitious. So that's the point I wanted to make on trying to get talent to our smaller hotels and destinations. To answer the question on a salary, look, I will start in jest. Tell me one person who's happy with their salary. I mean, it's very difficult to find anybody who's happy with their salary. So that's
I agree. I agree.
I say that in jest, although I do understand where the question is coming from. I think my advice would be two. Number one, yes, there is a challenge in the initial salaries in the hotel business. I walk and talk at the hotels on a regular basis. I travel, and I hear this complaint. I also get this complaint from the young students passing out of IHM Pusa. But it's not always going to be the same. If you are able to pass that hump of the initial years, then I think it's a good salary after a certain number of initial years. And I must admit, those initial years are very hard in every aspect. Second is, look at the lifestyle. I don't think everything is about money. If somebody is working in Randhirji's hotel or Shoba's hotel, I mean, look at the kind of lifestyle that you have over there, and the kind of experiences that you will get. And people are paying top dollar to get to a hotel, what Shobaji is running, and here you are going to work there. Of course you have a day off, of course you have times that you can explore and be part of that experience. So that's number two. Number three is, and this is a bit of a naughty suggestion, but there are students who are passing out of colleges who are getting some really handsome salaries. Management trainees of ITC are being paid a very, very handsome salary in my view. And I encourage all students to really work hard to achieve that coveted position of a management trainee or a corporate trainee. Of course, not everybody is going to get that, but then, that's how life is. You work hard, you study hard, you get those experiences, you do a good interview, and you get a job which pays you very well. And then there are some who start late. Lastly, I would say, I am one of those people who started in a smaller company, in a budget hotel company. And I've had the great opportunity and pleasure to be working with the Taj Group of Hotels for 10 years and now with ITC. It's never too late. You can always continue to work hard, persevere, and get there. I don't think money is a problem for people who are talented and are needed in the business.
Yes, I wish we could continue this discussion, there are a lot of questions. I would like to just assure the people who are shooting questions on the chat room that I'm noting down everything. I'm going to ask them as the session progresses. That will also give you an incentive to stay on and not switch off. So on that note, let me thank the panelists. They have been really good, and the idea of just being at a location where you can do a lot of birding and engage in other such activities. I would do anything to be in such a location. Unfortunately, I'm not 25 years old, so I cannot go back to that life. Thank you so much. Thank you, Randhir ji. Thank you, Arindam. Thank you, Shoba. Hope to see you soon, and keep stay safe, stay strong, and keep being happy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.